Welcome to ACC Crunch Time with your host, Patrick O'Brien. Yes, welcome to our first ACC Crunch Time, where we talk about different topics going on in the conference in under 10 minutes here. Today we're going to talk about the Atlantic Division, kind of give a recap of standings and what you kind of missed over the weekend. Right now, Louisville stands on top of the standings with a 2-0 ACC record and 3-0 in the overall with their win against Florida State. Wake Forest also undefeated, 1-0 and 3-0 overall. Florida State fell to 0-1 and 2-1 with the loss against Louisville on Saturday. Syracuse is 0-1 with their earlier loss against the Cardinals last week, and now they're 1-2 overall. Boston College has now lost two conference. They're 0-2 with their loss against Virginia Tech, and now 1-2 overall. Clemson and NC State have yet to play an ACC conference. Clemson's still undefeated at 3-0, and NC State is at 2-1 to start the season after week 3. Some weekend notes from this weekend that you kind of saw. Here's some quick notes, some numbers that you might want to look at from the games. Obviously, everybody saw the Louisville game when they took care of Florida State convincingly with a 63-20 win. Quarterback Lamar Jackson is obviously a Heisman leading candidate right now. He threw for 216 yards on 13 completions and 1 touchdown, but he also ran for 146 yards and 4 touchdowns. Florida State only had 284 total yards with 2 turnovers and only 113 passing yards from DeAndre Francois total. Louisville averaged 10.8 yards per pass and 6.8 yards per carry as our offense pretty much dismantled the Florida State defense all game long. Florida State was 2-13 on third down in the loss there. Next game is Wake Forest. They're 3-0 for the first time since 2008. Wake Forest used a balanced attack. They ran for 302 yards, led by running back Matt Colburn with 119 yards. Delaware, they couldn't muster anything on offense. They only had 8 first downs and 94 total yards. One thing to look at is quarterback Kendall Hinton for Wake Forest. He did go out with an injury and didn't return, so we'll watch out for him heading down the season. Next one is the Syracuse game. Syracuse, they had a good offensive showing. They had 549 total yards compared to only 454 yards for UCF. But they also had 3 turnovers in the game, including 2 from quarterback Eric Dungy. The Syracuse had the ball for over 37 minutes, really controlled the clock in the game for much of it, compared to only the 22 minutes for USF. Dungy now, after throwing for 350 yards and 2 touchdowns in the game, even though it was a loss, he now leads the ACC in passing yards with 916. That's also in the country. He's a top 10. I think he's at number 8 right now, or number 9 in the country in passing yards. The Syracuse offense, you would like to see more of the running game, but they were able to show that against the Bulls. They rushed for 55 times with 199 yards, but the only thing is their defense didn't show up, as the USF averaged 6.8 yards per carry and had 4 rushing touchdowns in their 45-20 win. Boston College, they pretty much were a no-show against the Hokies. They lost 49-0. Boston College struggled again on offense, something that's been a story all year long. They only totaled 124 yards and 6 first downs in the loss, and the defense usually is what keeps them in the game. That they gave up 476 total yards to the Hokies. I think Gerard Evans had 5 touchdowns in that game. Quarterback Patrick Towles, he averaged only 2.9 yards per pass, which is not going to get the job done at all for the Boston College offense. They led the team, and he also led the team in rushing with only 17 total rushing yards on 5 attempts there. Pretty much the player of the game for them, you can probably say, is Mike Knoll. He had 13 punts and averaged 41.3 yards per punt, but that didn't really do much for as Hokies secured their first ACC win against Boston College, and as we mentioned before, they fall to 0-2 now in the ACC. Clemson, we got 2 more games. We'll start with Clemson there. They finally were able to take care of business, convincing fashion against South Carolina State with the 59-0 win. Clemson had actually 5 different players throw a pass. In total, 328 passing yards. They were led by Watson. He was 12 for 15. Had a solid game, only 152 yards, but 3 touchdowns. Got the job done early. The Clemson offense also had 227 rushing yards, led by running back Feaster, who had 83 yards, and had several other running backs and players get some rushing yards in the win. They came out hot, scored 31 points in the first quarter and 14 in the second and third until it was just garbage time, and they actually had to go to 12-minute quarters in the third after halftime there. South Carolina State only had 102 total yards and 9 first downs, and they also had 2 turnovers in the game. Our last one that we're going to be looking at is NC State when they secured a nice 49-22 win over Old Dominion at home on Saturday. It was a later game on Saturday. Quarterback Finley, he went 24 for 28 and had 281 yards and 3 touchdowns. Jalen McClendon actually had secured 3 touchdowns as well. He actually rushed for 2 of them on some goal line attempts there. There was only actually 1 turnover in the game, something that I might want to look at there, but it was from actually NC State. NC State didn't have 1 turnover against Old Dominion there. They had the only turnover. The Wolfpack, they had 28 first downs. They went 7 for 11 on third down, so they had a better offensive showing in this game. Used a nice balanced attack there again. The defense, against ECU, they had some trouble in the passing game against the Pirates. This defense, they did allow 321 total yards, but much of it came on a 91-yard drive and some kind of fourth quarter scores, kind of garbage time against Old Dominion. But they were able to secure a 49-22 win. Now they are 2-1 overall. Like I said, they have yet to play an ACC school yet, so they still remain undefeated in the conference there. That's our ACC Crunch Time with looking at the Atlantic Division. Our next podcast will be looking at the Coastal, doing a little quick recaps of some of the numbers and scores from this past weekend for some ACC Coastal. So check that out for ACC Crunch Zone and all things ACC, and have a great one.